So again, good morning. Thank you for coming. Today we have with us Paolo Figini. I would like to underline that he's not only a studying professor, but also is a friend of us. We met first. Paolo, at least 5 years ago. We collaborated narrowly in the Soft Impact project. We have published, and I think a very relevant paper with a literature review in climate change and tourism issues. So it's a great pleasure to have Paolo here with us. He's going to be 1 month, so all of you who are interested in connecting him will have the opportunity over the next 30 days. And today, Paolo is going to talk us about one very interesting topic, which is
surprise.
A surprise, no? It's very much related with the climate change, with climate issues, and particularly what happened when the people buy tourism experience, expecting kind of a particular climate, and suddenly rain. So, Paolo, delight us with your presentation, please.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Matthias, and I also take the opportunity to thank all of you for the hospitality, especially TIDES and the Department of Finance and Accounting for the hospitality in these days, and Javier and Yen, Domingo, Matthias for working with me. And it's true, we are not only colleagues, we are friends, so it's always nice to work with you. And thanks again for this opportunity. I remember that I had to come here 3 years ago when we were working on the other project on Social Impact, and then the COVID-19 arrived and my visiting period disappeared suddenly. So it's nice to have the opportunity now to present this paper. So let me just frame this work, which is basically part of a broader research line, which tries to address issues which are relevant for the tourism sector and which are linked to the use of big data, or anyway a massive amount of data available online which are related to tourism, and specifically on the impact of external events on specific goods and services. And tourism is a very important and relevant example in where exogenous shocks, external events, external factors can affect not only the utility of tourists and consumers, but more in general also the reputation of firms, the price dynamics, which is taken care of by companies, and so on. So on this line of research, together with my co-authors Veronica Leone and Laura Vici, who are connected online, so also hi to both of you. And we've been working for the last few months on this line of research, and this paper is one of the outcomes. So the overview of this presentation is not surprising, so it's quite standard. So I will start with the background and try to understand why we think that this topic is relevant. We will see a kind of bit of the literature which takes care of this issue, but with a different perspective, and on which we believe to contribute in a novel way. We will address the theory, which is just taken from another paper, so we did not develop any theoretical model in here. We just did the empirical analysis, so we will present some issues related to data construction, the data set construction, the empirical strategy, and then I will present the results. So I want to start from the very beginning, and I could say that this kind of work addresses a very well-known issue in economics and microeconomics, which is the one of asymmetric information on one side and uncertainty from the other side. So typically, these two issues, which are very famous macroeconomic market failures, are important, especially for a certain type of goods, which are called experience goods, according to what first Nelson said in 1970, and for which the process of selecting goods and services, deciding to buy them, and then also evaluate the quality is quite complicated. So in this way, we have both a problem of asymmetric information between the provider of the service, let's say the hotel, selling the room to tourists, but also uncertainty in the sense that in tourism, the great majority, if not the totality of services are bought in advance, and therefore in a situation in which we have to consider the conditions that will appear in the future, and therefore in a framework of uncertainty. When we have this type of goods on services, customers, consumers, economic agents try to acquire as much as possible information. And in this sense, it's important to evaluate, to find, to identify reliable metrics of quality. For example, brand reputation is the most important. We, most of the times as tourists, we have to book hotels in cities where we have never been. So what do? I know that I like NAH hotels, so I find NAH hotels, I believe in this brand, and I book there. Or, and this is one of the most important issues in the last few years, I start reading all the reviews that I find in Booking.com, and I try to find out what are the pros and cons, and so on. Now, it's very well known, and there is a huge literature about the impact of user-generated content, like online reviews and online ratings, on different economic variables, sales, but also prices, and also on the subsequent reputation of hotels. Now, when we talk about especially tourism services, especially accommodation, what is important is that the ex post quality, ex ante, the quality is not known, but we can find reliable information. However, ex post, our satisfaction depends also on some contingent factors, which might come from intrinsic characteristics of the goods and services, and which is, again, kind of central to the situation of an experience good. So we want to anticipate what the experience will be, and we will find out that, of course, if I have a problem with my back, I need to find out if the mattress is good for me. And of course, I try to understand in advance if these characteristics are available, and therefore I will evaluate exactly those characteristics. But also situational factors. Of course, if I book a holiday in summer in southern Italy, it's because I want to lie all day on the beach. What if it's going to rain? This is going to affect my experience. It's correct? Yes, because I was expecting, or when I booked, I was thinking about having a holiday in hot temperature and good weather. but something different happened. However, is it, let's say, a bias that these external events affect the service that I need to evaluate, let's see, the room quality or the hotel quality? We will see, but what we add, and this is something about our novel contribution, we think that more than situational factors, more than external effects like the weather, is the mismatch between what we were expecting and the weather that was realized in the days of our stay, which is important for our evaluation. And we believe that this is a kind of a bias in the review that we find online. As I was saying before, tourism is the typical example of experience good, and it's also a typical example of good which is strongly dependent on an external event, the state of nature. So what we are analyzing is if these external conditions, these situational factors, affect review engagement. Well, actually, we don't analyze review engagement. What we analyze is the impact on rating scores. So, to summarize, in tourism economics, weather is typically modeled as, on one side, instrumental information. So we know, and I've been working in the last few years on how, for example, weather forecast impacts on the pricing strategy of hotels. So its importance for price dynamics. So in this case, weather is important because it provides some information, if we think about the weather forecast, about what the market will, sorry, I say it again. This type of information is important because it says something about the market equilibrium in terms of how the price changes in a specific destination according to whether the weather is going to be rainy or sunny, hot temperature, bad temperature. So there is a work on this. On the other side, there is work also to analyze the effect of weather condition on ratings. But there is a lack of evidence. To the best of our knowledge, we did not find any work analyzing the role played by the mismatch between what are the expectations about the weather and the external conditions that we are expecting to find, and what is the real experience. So the research goal, in a sense, is to analyze the effect of weather, or what we call weather surprise, and we link our work to a recent theoretical and applied line of investigation, which considers the issue of surprises in economics on experience utility. To summarize, this is more or less the framework on which we are going to contribute. On one side, we can distinguish the dimensions of the review, so we can classify some factors which are intrinsically related to service quality, and some other factors which are not related, like situational factors, like the weather, for example. On the other side, another dimension is whether the condition is expected or unexpected. So in this sense, what we should find in the review is group one, so expected fundamental service. So I'm expecting to find a good mattress. The mattress is good, is bad. So I evaluate that. Sometimes it's important to have in the reviews also unexpected so surprises, which can be understood as fundamental shocks, which are, however, intrinsically related to the service quality. The example is we check in a hotel and we find a welcome from the owner, which gives a a cup of wine or a cup of wine for 2 people or something like that. So this is a kind of positive, unexpected situation, which also has an effect on the review. Now, if we put this thing in the review, it's correct because it's part of our experience, but could bias what other people will get, because it's not certain that the same cup of wine could be offered any day in the future to any other guest. So there are discussions on that. And it's also, and then we move to the situational factors. We have some expectations about, for example, the weather that is going to happen during our stay. And of course, this weather is going to affect our mood, our experience, and therefore it's going to be reflected also in the review. What we are going to do, however, is to focus on the last group, which are, let's say, non-fundamental shocks, in the sense that they are surprises, so unexpected situations linked to situational factors. So I was expecting to find good weather, and then a huge storm arrived. Now, this is going to be reflected in the review or not. And this is exactly what we are going to study. So about surprises, our work is related to different strands of literature. The first one is about surprises in economics. In this sense, we are kind of moving away from what is the standard way in which the economic literature analyze uncertainty. So the typical way in which we study uncertainty is, let's say, in an objective, irrational way. So there are future states of the world, each one with a different probability to happen, and therefore our choice will try to maximize our expected utility. But everything is already taken care of. However, when we talk about surprises, we're talking about something which is not anticipated, in a sense. In this way, it's what has been called a schema discrepancy. So it's linked with the theory of confirmation and disconfirmation. Surprises have been used specifically in works on media, for example. Sometimes it's related to the theory of good news, bad news. Of course, if we open the news and you find a new terrorist attack, this has a negative impact on our mood, on our feelings, and so on. On the other way, if we open the sport news and we find that Girona defeated Barcelona, as I think it happened this year, that might create good news for some of you who don't like Barcelona and so on. So, of course, there is a lot of issues related to surprises and the impact that these things have on personal, let's say, in this case, not really related to utility, but in a sense related to satisfaction, to happiness, and to the general mood of people. It's also linked to the issue of hedonic adaptation, which is again very well known in economic theory, for which when there is a shock, this shock impacts on the utility, on the satisfaction and the happiness of people, but typically for a very short period. And people very quickly go back to their original level of satisfaction. And there are studies that done not only on the overall self-reported level of happiness of people, after, for example, positive shocks like winning a lottery, or after negative shocks like incidents, accidents, or one work was on the partner's death. And of course, this has a short-term shock on the level of satisfaction and happiness, but very quickly this goes back to the ex-ante situation. Moving more closely to utility, there is a recent literature, which is very nice, which analyzes surprises and suspense in terms of something that users, something that customers and consumers are looking for. And typically, this is something which is quite obvious in most sport games, for example. If we think how the rules of some competitions try to change in order to have the highest uncertainty up to the last possible moment. Think about the difference of suspense and excitement in a championship like the French League, in which you know at the beginning of the year that Paris Saint-Germain is going to win, or something like the Champions League, in which you don't know up to the 90 minutes of the final who is going to win. So these kind of things are, of course, important in sport, but they are important if we think about movies, about novels, about thriller. What you want from a good thriller is a sudden change in plot, something that completely changes the way in which the story could be interpreted. So these things are going to satisfy and going to increase utility and satisfaction of users. And again, usually when you look for a nice series on TV, the first season is okay, or can be excellent, the second one is and the third one, why? Because basically you start knowing exactly what's the plot, and then the level of surprise is not as much as on the first time. Finally, a third strand of literature on which our work is related is more specifically in tourism economics, and specifically on the impact of weather condition on online review. As I was saying before, there are many papers analyzing how weather conditions impact, for example, reviews in restaurants, but also in other issues, how in general weather conditions at the destination impact on hotel reviews, but also, and this is a recent work by Brands and Dover, also weather conditions at home affect reviews. And they find that typically people, let's say typical British tourists coming to Canary Islands and spending a beautiful holiday here, and then they go back to the UK and they have to write a review, and typically they write the review in a rainy, gray, and cold day, so they are in a bad mood, and apparently their reviews are worse than reviews written by other guests who are in a more favorable environment. So these are basically the three types of strands of literature on which we learn and on which we try to give a contribution. So about the theoretical framework, we basically build upon a recent paper, well, recent not anymore, by Ely et al., published on Journal of Political Economy, in which basically they model what is the optimal way for, in a principal-agent model, what is the optimal way for principals to release information in order to maximize agents' utility. And the typical issue here is that the audience prefers surprise and or suspense. We adapt the story which is told by Ely et al. In a way that typically the principle is Mother Nature. So we can say that Mother Nature is the principle deciding about surprises and suspense. Consumers hold a belief, which is basically the forecast that they can get on the weather that will occur during the stay. And the forecast is important because it's when we get the forecast that we understand exactly what we are going to do, what we can do, what type of activities we can carry out, and what type of activities we cannot carry out. Basically, in weather-dependent experiences like tourism, what is important also is to acquire new information as long as time goes by. And in this way, basically, expectations follow an adaptive learning process. So we learn by each new forecast, and we adapt our mood and our idea of what we can do according to how the weather forecast changes before the time of the experience. Now, what is important in weather forecasts is that it's public information, and it is symmetric in the sense that it's very, well, it's available, and they can be consulted by both consumers and service providers. So it's public, and there is no asymmetry. And it is, well, it comes at negligible cost. I think that all of us, at least a few days, a few times, any day, we open the app on the telephone and check the weather that is going to be tomorrow and so on. So it takes no time. It's easy to do, so rational attention is not relevant. And this is something that it serves in another paper which I recently published on the impact of weather forecasts on pricing strategy of hotels. The type of utility that we analyze, as I was saying before, is not the typical, let's say, mainstream concept of utility, but it's more linked to the experience utility, and specifically what Kahneman and Thaler call the remember utility. So it's the self-recall of a past experience in which, again, what we believe is important is the mismatch between the expected and the realized weather. And of course, we might think that the impact, if any impact of surprise, the impact might be asymmetric in the sense that if we are going to expect sun and then it's going to rain, the impact is heavier than if it's going to be rainy but suddenly the sun comes out. So we also check these kind of things. Just to put a bit of formalization, we have omega as a finite space of states, omega, in which, for simplicity, in the simplest representation of the model, we only have two states, sunny or rainy. In the extended version, we have also cloudy as a kind of third state. And there are 4 specific points of time which are relevant. First of all, the time of purchase. The time of purchase is when we decide to go on holiday and book the hotel. Typically, this happens weeks or months before. So in that moment, what is important is our prior belief about the weather that is going to be. So I'm going to book a holiday in southern Italy in summer because I know that it's 35 degrees and it's not going to rain. So this is our belief, which drives the choice of purchasing the good. And then we acquire, after we have booked, information. And typically what is important is the moment in which we are ready to travel. So 1 day, 2 days before taking the flight or taking the car, we basically understand how the weather is and how the weather is going to be on holiday. So at this time, t minus x, we get basically our expectation about the weather that is going to occur. Then we have consumption type, the holiday t, and then we have the review time, which will be some days later, t plus k. So again, this is something that I was saying. So basically, we have a prior belief, which is mu0, which is the prior, so the ex-ante likelihood of omega to occur before taking into consideration the new information. So this is what is relevant at the time of booking. And then the agent receives a signal, W, which is the weather forecast. And what is the weather forecast that is relevant is the one that we get at time t minus x, which is the moment in which we prepare our suitcase, and we decide what to bring over for the holiday. at time t, the time of consumption, we have a certain realized weather omega, and we have a previous received signal W, which was sent at time t minus x. So we have a very simple situation of 4 cases, 2 cases of no surprise. So it's going to be forecast sun and it's going to be sunny, or the forecast is rain and it's going to rain, or 2 surprise, and one we can say it's a positive surprise, so the forecast was rainy and the realized weather was sun, and the opposite happens when the forecast was sun and the weather is rainy. So this is basically a theoretical framework. About the data, we used mainly data from Booking.com. So we collected the stock of reviews available for the population of 3, 4, and 5-star hotels in 2 cities, Italian cities, Milan and Venice. In total, we analyzed 340,000 individual reviews. And we collected these reviews in the period between September 19 and February 2020. February 2020 is clear, then we had the COVID and the world changed. Before, it's important because Booking.com changed the way in which we could review on the website. Before September 99, the overall evaluation of a hotel was an average of our review and our rating of 4 or 5 different characteristics. Since September 99, Booking changed the system, and apart from rating the room quality, the service, the ambient of the hotel, and so on, we could also leave a rating for the overall experience. So we think that this overall experience might capture also the impact of some external events which are not linked to the specific factors related to the hotel or to the room. So some statistics, what we could get here is, well, some basic statistics about the score, about the length of stay, about the type of customers who let the review, and so on. This data set of reviews from Booking.com was also matched with information about weather forecasts and realized weather. So we took weather forecasts from AccuWeather, which is one of the most important weather forecast providers, which is also included in most of our mobile phone operating systems. And we use official data from the regional agencies for environmental protection of Veneto and Lombardia, which are the 2 regions of Venice and Milan, for getting the real information about the realized weather. We collected data on weather forecast at time t minus x for weather that is going to be at time t, and we match it with the realized weather at time t. Just to give you an idea, this is about the percentage of the different cases. In case of unexpected rain, rain extended means that the forecast was sunny or cloudy, and then the realized weather was rainy, and so on. One important issue is that in Booking.com, you have the specific date of the review. You have the month of the stay, but you don't have information about the specific date of the stay. So we had to construct this missing information by assuming that people review when they receive the email from Booking.com or a few hours afterwards. If they don't reply soon, basically they forget or they are not interested in reviewing. And typically reviews are written 2 days after the stay, because the Booking.com policy says that the reviews are sent 2 days after the checkout from the hotel. In order to avoid any kind of problem with the identification of the date, we restrict the analysis only to short stays. So 1, 2, or 3 nights maximum. And this, again, something that you can have in the data set. To avoid any problem, because sometimes if the stay is on the 31st of the month and the review is written the month later, it can create problems. So we run some robustness checks, but in the basic specifications, we only consider observations where the stay and the review months coincide. So basically, we match each date T with the corresponding weather conditions of the city where the accommodation is located, either Venice or Milan, and the corresponding weather forecast of 2 days before. The baseline model is a model in which our dependent variable is the reported utility. So U is basically the rating that we find in Booking.com. It's the score of consumer I who stayed in hotel H, which is located in city J, left at time T. And basically, the experience is function of a vector of tourist characteristics, basically gender, type of party group, and if the review was anonymous or not. A vector of time-varying characteristics of the provider, which basically collapse in the average price of the hotel and the stock of ratings accumulated before the time T. So tau is the main parameter that we are going to analyze. And then we have some fixed effect. Of course, AH captures all the fixed time unvarying characteristics of the hotel. And HM is a dummy for the months. So we have 6 months, so we have dummies for each month in order to capture what is the more likely expectation about the prior, the weather that at the time of booking we are going to expect. We also extended the model by considering that surprise might interact with the length of stay according to what we think is likely to happen if we think that hedonic adaptation theory has a role to play. So the longer the stay, the lower would be the effect of the surprise. Typically, if I stay only for the Saturday, I want to go on the beach on the Saturday. If it's going to rain, it's a big problem. If I stay on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, well, Saturday is bad. Well, I can go to the museum and I can go on the beach on the Sunday. So that's the basic idea behind. Okay, so basically some of the results. To conclude, how much time do I have? 3 hours? 4? Okay. Oh. Okay. So I just put this extra from one of the regressions because this is probably what has been done several times before our paper. So in this paper, in this model, what we control here is for the realized weather. So the base category is cloudy. So we would expect that if the weather is sunny, reviews are higher. If the weather is rainy, scores are lower. However, this is not consistent. So we find, for example, a negative sign also for sunny, which does not really make any sense. So in a sense, in here, something doesn't work properly. And what we believe doesn't work properly is exactly that what is not important, well, of course, it's the realized weather is important, but we believe that there is something more. So it's the realized weather compared to what was the expectation. So what we do here is run different specifications of the model, and in which I want just to focus your attention on the parameter, on the relevant parameter. So in here, models 1 and 2 analyze and estimate the impact of unexpected rain. So what this coefficient says is, where is it? Is that compared to the case in which we expected rain and we had rain, when we had unexpected rain, so the forecast was sunny, but the real weather was rainy, ceteris paribus, the score is lower. And what if we consider the forecast of sunny or cloudy and then it was rainy? Again, the coefficient is lower, which means that the rating is lower, but the effect is not so strong as in the previous case. On the other side, what if we had a forecast of rain? If we had a forecast of rain and suddenly we had sun, overall, ceteris paribus reviews show a higher score. Again, if we consider also the forecast of cloud, so a broader range of expectation, the impact is there, but it's lower in absolute value. So you see the coefficient is 0.128, which is lower than 0.2.8. Different specifications are run in the other columns of the table. We run a long battery of checks, which are still under construction because, of course, we are getting some feedback and comments, so we are trying to extend also the robustness check, but the results are pretty robust. For example, in here, what we did is to consider only the reviews for which on the day of the stay, so you see that we only have a subset here. It's not the complete sample, it's a subsample. We only consider those cases in which, let's say it was rainy on the day of the stay. So according to column 2, the base is, let's say, rainy to rainy. So rain was forecast and we had rain. When the forecast was sunny, the score is negative. When it's cloudy, well, it's not significant. In here, we only consider those cases in which the stay was happening in a day in which there was sun, so a sunny day. Again, when the forecast was rainy and then it was sunny, the rating score was higher, much higher, and also, again, the positive sign is significant when we also include the case of a cloudy forecast. And we have other specifications, and basically the idea is that we found basically that in all specifications the effect is there and it is significant. We also checked model 2, the extended model in which we interact unexpected rain and sun with the length of stay. And we find that according to hedonic adaptation theory, or in line with the hedonic adaptation theory, the impact of the length of stay moderates the effect of this surprise, of what we define as surprise. We run a battery, as I was saying before, of robustness checks in terms of inference, bootstrap, or two-way fixed effects. We also consider alternative specifications for the way in which the weather was considered. So rather than considering the typical summary icon about the sun or the cloud or the rain, We also consider different variables constructed, for example, in terms of hours of sunshine, in terms of rain probability, and in terms of, well, anyway, all these variables that we built are strongly correlated with the main icon, and results are robust. We also consider if the impact changes according to the weekdays and weekends, or even excluding or controlling for an important event that happened in Venice in the week of November 19 of 2019, in which there was one of the most important cases of high tide in Venice, which might have an impact. We control for that. We excluded those observations, and results are robust. So basically, according to our findings, results show that on one side, unexpected rain, so not rain per se, but unexpected rain is associated with a significant and robust decrease in self-reported utility by part of customers. On the contrary, unexpected sun, so not sun per se, but unexpected sun, is associated with a significant increase in experienced utility. And the magnitude of the effect is weaker when the mismatch is less dramatic. So when we consider also the cloudy forecast, because, well, when we have a forecast of cloud, this is let's say, the most objective. So it opens to many different interpretations by part of the customers. So perhaps that is going to impact the result. We also find that the length of stay moderates the surprise effect. And on the contrary, we find no evidence of negativity bias, because in terms of estimated coefficients, the positive surprise exerts a stronger effect. So the coefficients estimated when we had unexpected sun is always higher than, in absolute value, than the coefficient estimated for unexpected rain. So what we conclude is that it is not important the weather status per se, because the weather status might capture an omitted variable bias in the model, because the model would not consider what are the expectations. And the expectations is exactly what drives our idea of the tourism experience that we are going to have. So in this case, what is important, again, is not the weather per se, but how the weather surprises with respect to our prior expectations. So we offer an empirical insight on how what the literature defines non-fundamental shocks, surprises on factors which are not part of the intrinsic quality of the good or service that we are going to review, affect the assessment of the experienced good. Again, we find consistency with the hedonic adaptation theory. And to the best of our knowledge, no prior research had explored the effect of such exogenous surprises on agents' utility, specifically using user-generated contents. So what we might conclude is that, okay, but is it relevant? Does it make any sense to study these kind of things? We say yes, we think yes, for at least a couple of reasons. First of all, there are important implications for online review providers. Sometimes it happens that I don't know, if we need to buy some strange device that we don't know, we go on Amazon and we look at the reviews, and sometimes we find reviews which say 5-star, and then you read, perfect, it arrived in 1 day. I don't know how it is, I haven't tried it yet. Okay, but I want to know exactly how this device is, if the device works, if it is of good quality. So these kind of reviews are completely out of focus. So the impact of unexpected events, and particularly external events, might bias the information available for future customers, and therefore might provide a problem for the, let's say, ability of this type of user-generated contents to provide reliable information for the future. There is an interesting line of investigation, more in the managerial science, that tries to understand how, on the other side, accommodation service providers are going to counteract the impact of these external events. In here, we could include weather derivatives, so the fact of introducing certain types of insurance that can provide a partial reimbursement to the customer if the weather is bad, or the idea of, for example, having specific services that would be used in the hotel if the external weather is bad, like an indoor pool, for example, or something like that. Or the idea that it's important for accommodation service providers to provide, let's say, ancillary services that can be used for counterbalancing the impact of external events. So there are, we believe, lots of implications, but we leave, anyway, for a discussion on these issues more for questions or comments or any discussion if you think it's needed. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you for your talk.
Thank you.
Yes, my question goes to the selection of the destination to do the study, because in Milan, there is no particular destination. I know you know much better than me the destination, but it's not the main attraction of those destinations are not the weather, right? So you have a lot of attractions, cultural museums, etc., that are not so much weather related that other destinations are sun destinations. So in that case, how do you see maybe this effect of the weather is not so significant because of the selection of the destination, or it depends on which selection are you
Well, I would put it the other way around. If it is relevant in such destinations, it should be more relevant in leisure destinations. So that's our idea. But we consider these destinations, and also the period, it's not summer. It's between September and February. Why is that? Because in most, well, let's say in the Mediterranean area, weather in summertime is always good. So basically, I mean, in another paper in which we're analyzing the impact on price dynamics, basically we found in some cases no variation. So what you need here is variation in all the different conditions. So these are two cities which are in a different way two superstar in tourism. Milan is the most important business destination, but it's also an important cultural destination for shopping, for leisure activity or cultural activity. And Venice, of course, is the world #1 cultural destination probably in the world. So they are different in terms of tourism mix, one more business, one more cultural. They are analyzed in a time span in which the weather variability is higher. And when weather variability is higher, it's more difficult to have very accurate and precise forecasts. So this is the time in which we expect a higher discrepancy between the forecast and the realized weather. In summertime, 99.9% of the times says sun, and it's going to be sun, so we don't have enough variation. So that's the idea behind it.
Can we see the tables of some of the estimations? The estimates of...
This one?
No, the large one. This one.
Okay.
Because here, Paolo, it's not clear to me if all these variables of the different columns are all dummies. I mean, unexpected rain is one,
no.
if there is unexpected rain.
Yes,
zero in
that's the dummy, yes. It's not dummy, prior ratings and the log of price. All the others, and the length of stay, which is 1 to 3.
Wouldn't it be possible just to estimate a model with all the dummies within the categories and to have a base? Like the base it will be, let's say the worst probably is the expected rain. And from the expected rain to put all the other states and see
Yes,
if you
yes,
get,
it's possible. Yeah,
possible?
we had just done it a few days ago.
Okay.
So basically, in this case, you would have 9 dummies: sunny, cloudy, rainy, expected or not, and all the combinations. Okay. So no.
You have
It's-
8 if you put additional three states for expected, unexpected, or
Yeah.
you have cloudy, rainy, sunny,
They can be expected.
and unexpected.
Yeah.
6. So
But you have, no, you have, let's say, sunny to sunny, sunny to rainy, cloudy to sunny, cloudy to rainy, and rainy to cloudy, rainy to sunny. So,
okay. So
Okay.
it's it's three power.
yeah,
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
okay. And we run it, I don't have it here, the results, but again, it works.
It works.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you have from the, let's say, from the worst state, you have like a positive sign.
Yeah, I don't remember. Some signs, some coefficients are not statistically significant. They are related to cloudy, again, but the big ones, the most important. Yeah.
Cloudy has no sun.
But the sun to rain and rain to sun, they are similar like this. Yeah.
So, well, the main problem you have selling this idea is just of these 2 days, right? That they make the review and they remember quite well
Well, typically, booking.
because I think you know that it's sure, for sure, you know, if it rains and you are expecting no rain, but I'm not sure, you know, if this is going to affect the reviews. Well,
But,
probably yes.
What are the other reasons? We could not find any other reasonable idea.
No, because I don't think, you know, in real terms, you know, the last year we were in Croatia and we have a heavy rain in Split. It was raining cats and dogs. And now we are making fun of that. You know, we send our picture completely wet.
Okay.
But again, you know, I didn't make any review, so I'm not sure, you know, if after 2 days I would have taken that into account.
Yeah. Well, discussing with my co-authors, we thought about the case of a restaurant. Imagine that you have a seaside restaurant with an open terrace, okay? So you are going to be there. Now, there are different cases. If it's rainy, but you want to go to that restaurant because you like it, you know that you're going to eat inside. So you have some expectations, you eat inside, you focus on the food. Suddenly, the weather changes. So the restaurant owner puts your table from indoor to outdoor. you're much happier, and you're going to review a much nicer review probably. And again, this.
Yeah, and it can happen, you know, the other side around, right? You are in the terrace, you are
Outside, it starts raining, you go indoor.
Suddenly
Exactly.
It's raining, and the waiter said, "Oh, you have to."
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it makes sense.
It makes sense.
It is more direct to restaurants, but apparently it also affects hotels.
Yeah, well, regarding the question that Juan raised before, because I'm thinking now trying to transfer this study to Canary Islands. And maybe, you know, we are going to have some difficulties in trying to adapt it, because in some days when the temperature is really, really hot, it's really, really sunny, maybe it's not so nice to be at the beach. So, well, but again, it's a nice study. I don't know, you got some results for sure.
You can adapt the study to different methods, for example, to expected temperature against the temperature what happens in our case in summertime, but not only in summertime. Remember the last October, we had a very, very, very long heat wave with temperatures over 32, 35 during a couple of weeks. And most of people coming here from Germany, they were expected 22, and they want 22, not 35. So
Yeah.
they got.
Yeah, I remember once when I was traveling from Madrid to Liverpool in the summer. So it was like in Madrid, it was July or something like that. In Madrid, it was hell. You know, it was like 38 degrees, very, very hot. And when the pilot was landing at the airport in Liverpool, said, "Wow, we arrived in Liverpool and the temperature is 18 degrees." So everybody.
Paulo,
No, just kind of, quick question. So have you ever kind of, have you ever had a chance to kind of look at the temperature? As he said, like the weather change is also very important on the customer's response, but I believe temperature is also more directly, kind of influence people's kind of emotional things and responses. For example, like too hot or something, too cold.
Yeah.
So have you?
Not in this paper. I have another paper on the impact on price dynamics, in which we check both rain and temperature, and the impact is very similar. Of course, with different sign, because if it's rain, it's negative. If the temperature goes up, it's positive. And also the impact is not linear. So there is a kind of maximum temperature after which the destination becomes unbearable in a sense.
It is a kind of obvious that the temperature, the degree, and the crime rate, correlated, right? The hot, and the people are kind of get angry, and the crime rate goes up. It's a similar sense. Probably customers' usual, generated contents also kind of, related to temperature as well, I guess.
Might be, yeah. We checked not directly with temperature or not in specifications that I recall. Might be that some months ago we tried all the different, but maybe I come back to see if there is the same. Yeah.
I think Jaume has a paper on that. Jaume Rosselló.
Okay. Yeah.
I was also thinking of the case of Canary Island, and I don't remember. Did you consider the specific location of the hotel, of the accommodation?
There are the hotels located. There are all hotels located in Milan and Venice. Let's say city center, 3, 4, or 5 stars. Yeah.
Because in this case, there is more variability. It is not the same, and I should put some location.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
In our case, for example, the micro climates can also influence because maybe you are in Las Palmas and it's cloudy
Sure.
or rainy, and you go to the south in 30 minutes and it's sunny there, so you can limit the reaction
Yeah.
of people to.
And also, it's true that, well, if you are experienced with weather applications, you know that you have to know how to read them. And typically, the summary icon is sometimes misleading. So it's well known that there is a kind of wet bias. So they try always to say that it's going to rain more than it's going to happen in reality. But it's also true that what is important here is the perception of people, and what the majority of people do is just look at the summary icon, not open for every hour of the day and look at the probability of rain and so on. So it's not really related to the accuracy of the forecast, but on how people use the application about weather forecast. And I know very well, because being a lover of mountaineering and hiking, the weather is very important. And sometimes I wake up in the morning when I on the mountains and I look, rain or no. Then I look outside the window. Then I start looking at the app, and the probability of rain is 20% overnight. So it doesn't really care what I'm going to do. But so you have to exactly know how to read the different apps and so on. But I don't know how many people do it.
Wow, the result of the prior ratings is really huge.
Yeah, but the constant is 27, so basically it goes back to 8, which is
So the explanatory variable is between 1 and 10?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, in any case, it's prior rating, so once you start, you become,
it means that
you become the devil.
the average rating on expected rain is
It's almost
0.01.
nothing. This is
It's nothing on one side. If you think how the real ratings of hotels are very close one to each other, could make a difference.
I mean, look at the sign. The prior ratings. It's like people are, once they start to complain, they are really,
Okay.
complaining.
Yeah. Yes.
And another issue, maybe you can also try to study is the logarithm of the price. Because I would expect that in five-star hotels, it's not so obvious, that the price is going to affect negatively the...
Okay. Well, first of all, I don't remember how many 5-star hotels we have in the sample. I think very few. So I don't know how it's going to affect it. But we could run, without 5-star hotel.
Well, in any case, it was quite interesting to understand. So congrats to you and Nicola.
Thank you.
Maybe Veronica wants to say, or there are some questions in the chat, I don't know, because we have some connected.
Some chat.
So we verify it.
No.
I wrote
Somebody
in Western.
Yes, and we did.
Go
Well,
to chat.
if I chat, there is nothing.
Yes.
No, we don't have. Okay. Veronica.
Veronica sta scrivendo.
No.
She has some.
This is a good question.
Okay.
Bueno. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody. Let's go to the